Top of the morning, peace. Assalamu alaikum. Power to the people. One Lord, one people, stay noble. My name is Malik Alain. I'm the chairman of the New York State chapter of the Noble Young Lords Party. And this segment for the Underlocking Key in regards to community organizing and prisoner organizing. Grits break down the build. That's what it's called. Grits break down the build. Being a recent student Being a recent student participant of an on-site college program, I heard about grit via my psychology professor who really sold the book as the best work of its kind. In his lifetime, he was an abnormally straight shooter, and over the spring semester, he gained a high level of respect from me and several guards attending his classes. That being said, when I read the title, I became ecstatically interested in reading it. To make things 1000% better, Underlock Key sent a request that asked me to direct a selected few ideas from the book's chapters, repurpose the information in a way that makes it useful for prisoners and prisoner movements. Taking grit to the cipher, those last days of Ramadan provided the forum that I used to gain opinions from the guys here. First, it was introduced, and the purpose was established as to what I was planning to do with our cipher with regards to the book. It was agreed that we would give light to this reading, our interpretation of the book knowledge as it regards the prisoner movement, meaning unifying actions of prisoners between different lumpen organizations, religious organizations, racial groups, and at times including sexually nonconformist groups. Once that was the base of our collective understanding, we read the very first part out loud in its entirety without stop. This was done in order to gain a clear mental picture of what the author, Dr. Angela Duckworth, wanted us to know, how she defined grit, her purpose for writing this book, how the information could be used individually, as a group, systematically, as a tool of help, or to exploit. Lastly, we brainstormed on whether the subject was new, unique, or reminiscent of other books any of us had read. This was all done day one. It included reading the preface along with chapters 1 through 5, checking the dictionary and thesaurus for words we either didn't understand or had different definitions for. This was to ensure we all stayed on the same page until a full grasp of the work was gained. Or as we say, the who, what, when, where, how, and why. Once that's gained, then each guy can go back to the cell and reflect on what is being said versus what the author voice is trying to persuade the reader of. Because of lockdowns, we didn't come back together again for some time. In that time, I made 6 copies of the book and hand-delivered the copies to each member of the cipher. I read ahead because of these time restraints for my response for Underlocking Key to be ready for the next issue. The subjects that I find applicable to the prisoners and prisoners movement need to develop greedier comrades on the front lines are from the part 2 chapters, interest, practice, and purpose. I have to get that book. Using the grit test, a questionnaire measuring someone's passion and perseverance, we can discriminate in positive ways to create better recruiting methods when it comes to bringing individuals into the intercommunal cipher or cadre, thus Noble Young Lords Party. This will change the qualities that community leadership uses to identify like-minded soldiers, though most will have to use interview methods instead of written questionnaires, and questions will have to be asked again and again in different ways before confirmation can be made. The study habits and increasing interest in each member's confidence in sharing these interpretations of study materials must become the job of all this leadership. With little to no critique at first and high praises to study habits and being able to communicate ideas in their own voice. Standing up to injustice must be celebrated, especially in times they are made to suffer by the authorities for doing the righteous and self-respected thing, which is the institutional systematic way of pushing said prisoner to believe they are powerless. This is the creation of the passive prisoner who just puts up with all levels of abuse from authority. To fight this mental bullying, the leadership must celebrate the comrades' actions openly with high energy. Leadership must show and prove they are willing to suffer some loss if and when making a stand causes such losses. A united front plus true knowledge of where the cadre stands on issues by actions, not just theory or talk-based instructions. Grit is made of both passion and perseverance, creating and maintaining stick-with-it, evolving interest and deep commitment as opposed to natural skill, know-how, or raw talent which may or may not assist in being a success. Comrades. This is the next page. Comrades. Being greedier means overcoming obstacles, learning from defeats and setbacks, and never allowing them to define who you are nor the movement. Remembering effort is worth twice as much as talent. Example, remembering effort is worth twice as much as talent. Example, recently myself and 11 other political prisoners attempted to establish a self-introspection health program. At the beginning of administration acted positively about allowing the program to have a pilot trial, yet once we got a free body volunteer to facilitate our group, the administration changed its decision. This forced me to educate myself on group creation, rules of submittal, and how to get sponsors statewide, which I'm currently in the process of doing. The lesson is don't stop at the first or second or third signs of resistance. Interest. This chapter was organizational goal when clearly understood. Leaders, please pay close attention to each comrade's passion within your cadre or cipher, with even more emphasis on possible new members in relation to the struggles the cadre is immersed in. Understand what each person is passionate about, issues they will be more able to persevere through any pushback or reprisal. Besides that, knowing each person's passion and conviction helps to know what position everyone is good at and areas they need assistance developing, which can be introduced in creative, fun ways, then incentive through recognition and praise for gradual growth in areas of difficulty. Example, say a comrade is uncomfortable communicating their ideas publicly. This problem is amplified when the CEOs are involved to the point this comrade doesn't assert his legal rights, nor is he respected as a man in the righteous way. Leadership must cultivate these skills in members who have difficulties related to these identifiable areas. The "you spoke really well" type, or the way you used those descriptors in the last essay was golden. So please continue to develop those skills. Type of recognition and praise. I call it fanning the flames of passion, then directing the flames of progress and confidence among comrades. Practice. Practice is something this shit is long. Practice is something all gritty people have in common. You've heard the saying, practice builds perfection. Well, after reading this chapter, I must take it even further. Without practice as a united front, executing plans in concert, you don't know how to work as one body. This will create the big me and little yous, or followers' resentment. Learn to practice making decisions together by hearing everyone involved out. Allow each person the opportunity to lead in every activity. Practice writing write-ups, working out as a group, being inclusive as much as possible. This will make the cadre able to operate even when separated. The author's research shows that this kind of practice must be done in association with a positive state of mind related to the balance of quantity and quality of time spent in skill development. We must also seek out new creative ways of practice in direct relation to the top level goal. Formal repetition and fun activities loosely associated to goals are also useful tools. Example, getting our comrades to rap in the cipher, incorporating subjects, words, ideas related to the group's mission may help them develop a public speaking style, confidence in speaking these opinions, and help them be more connected to positive public communication as a way to handle issues. Another more formal method is reading and discussing essays with the group, both on the yard and in closed room settings. Purpose. Ay, Dios mío. Alright. Under key readers, this may be the most important thing to learn about in this whole book with regards to prisoner movements and issues that create the necessity for a more inclusive united front. This author makes the definition of purpose more than the passion of the movement. Purpose is also the intention to contribute to the well-being of others. The balance of both is what is needed in these occasions and is found in all the greatest revolutionaries. The comrades that feel they were born to live and die for the purpose, for the people, are such destiny-driven modes where the quality is found, manifested and acted out. These people are rare, and even when they reach the stage of public awareness, they are usually murdered by one of the system's arms of imperial aggression. Purposeful revolutionaries must be supported by the people and understood by their peers as the magnetic or inspiring super motivation drivers that they are. When unity is necessary, these forces of nature will bring organization. Example, Huey P. Newton, co-founder of the Black Panther Party, was placed inside prison for a shootout with the police, and he was railroaded the first trial. The whole country polarized over this miscarriage of injustice, creating one of the most supported appeals California have ever seen. Free Huey was the call. Black power was the purpose, and the result are revolutionary history and the things of legends. Myra's International Ministry responds, thanks to this comrade for reviewing Grit from the perspective of a revolutionary anti-imperialist prisoner organizer. We also studied the book and found lessons we can draw from it on our own work. We can't summarize them all here, but we'll respond to some points in the review above and emphasize what we see as the most important points from the book. Grit is available for men for $10 or equivalent work trade. I gotta get that book. Y'all should get this book called Grit. We are hesitant to take any of the studies in Grit as representing human nature itself. As with all bourgeoisie psychology, the studies were conducted under conditions of imperialism, so we don't know their absolute representation of how humans' minds work. But since we're also organizing under imperialist conditions, the studies do apply to our present conditions. Throughout Grit, the author uses scientific studies and also case studies of paragons of grit, people who have reached pinnacles of performance in their jobs. This is one place where Duckworth bourgeoisie perspective shines brightly. The book opens with the study of the most elite forces in the United States military and jumps from athletes to musicians to chemists. The only mention of a socialist hero is when Duckworth puts Joseph Stalin's name right next to Adolf Hitler. Damn. Okay, cool. Socialist hero because he took out Hitler. Admits Stalin had grit, but also that they was misguided and proves that the ideal purpose can be perverted. In our communist version of grit, we would include case studies of not only Stalin, but also Mao Zedong, George Jackson, Stanley Tookie Williams, Assata Shakur, and the tens of thousands of people who participated in the over 5,000-mile long march in China in the 1930s. Regarding the grit test, we caution against using it as a measure of who should be allowed into our movement. It can be a tool for assessing where people need to develop and how much we could count on them to follow through in this moment. But Duckworth emphasized strongly that grit can grow. In fact, Chapter 5 is titled Grit Grows. Part 2 is titled Growing Grit from the Inside Out. And Part 3 is titled Growing Grit from the Outside In. There are many interventions and can use to increase the grit of our cadre, and building our own and our comrades' commitment and perseverance should be our focus. The grit test can be useful for measuring if we're improving our abilities to build grit in others, but should not be limiting who can participate. United Struggle Within outlines above the importance of group practice, and we also want to add the importance of individual development for improvement. Elsewhere in this issue of Under Lock Key, we lay out the guidelines for deliberate practice. The group mentality is important, and I had that in the other video. All right, lay out the guidelines for deliberate practice. The group mentality is important, but we can't rely on it for our development. Kevin Durant summarizes the ratio by saying they spend 70% of their time practicing alone. Both are necessary. Besides our ability to grow grit, one of the most important points Duckworth makes in Grit is that effort counts twice. Effort counts twice. Duckworth warns us against being distracted by talent or assuming that one's skill are dictated by his talent. Talent plays a part, but without effort, one's talent won't develop into skill. And without effort, one's skill won't develop into achievement. People who have less talent certainly surprise those with more talent in their achievement. They do this with effort. The ability to put in effort, even in spite of repression, setbacks, failure, that is grit. Power to the people. Revolutionary salute. One Lord, one people, stay noble. It's all about nobility, baby.